Let's start this episode off with something that happened to me today. I was in the car, just finished running errands, totally normal Sunday, and Bitch by Meredith Brooks came on the radio. The actual song, not on a throwback playlist or an algorithm or something cute. I had it on the actual FM radio, and there it was. And I sat in my car for a full 3 minutes after it ended, just sitting there, engine off, grocery bags in the back seat, thinking. Because I remembered exactly where I was when that song came out in 1997. I remember how it felt the first time I heard a woman on the radio basically say, "I'm everything at once. I am a mess and I'm magnificent and I'm not going to apologize for any of it." I remembered what that did to something in my chest. And then I thought, what happened to Meredith Brooks? And then I thought, I just, I sat there and I just kept thinking about how many times I've had that same thought about that same pattern with so many women in music. The ones who showed up, said something true and real and raw, and gave us a song that we couldn't stop singing, and then quietly, efficiently, got set aside by an industry that had already moved on to whatever was next. And I thought, we need to talk about this. So that's what we're doing today. Welcome to the Midlife Edit. This is a podcast for women who aren't broken, just becoming. For the ones who've spent years showing up, holding it together, and doing what was expected, and are now asking quieter, braver questions. This season is about turning the volume up on your voice, your health, your boundaries, your desires, and the life you actually want to live. No fixing, no pretending, just honest conversations about confidence, money, hormones, happiness, and coming back to yourself, with a little music along the way. I'm Jen, and this is the Midlife Edit. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Midlife Edit. I'm your host, Jen Weinstein, and this is the show where we talk about the things that matter in midlife, the stuff nobody warned us about, the culture we grew up in, and honestly, whatever's fired me up this week. Today's episode is something that I've wanted to do for a while, and it started, as the best episodes always do, with a feeling that I just couldn't shake. So we're talking about women in music. And I know this is kind of what my life is based on, right? I love music and women in music, but specifically the 90s and early 2000s women who shaped so many of us. And we're going to talk about what actually happened to them and why it feels like right now, finally, the culture is starting to catch up. I got a lot to say, so get comfortable. Okay, so close your eyes for a second. It's 1995, or 1997, or 2001. Doesn't matter exactly. Pick your year from any of that stretch. What's playing? Maybe it's Alanis. You Ought to Know comes on and you feel it in your spine because someone finally said the thing out loud. The angry, specific, not ladylike thing, and put it on a major label album and made it a hit. Jagged Little Pill sold 33 million copies worldwide. 33 million. One of my favorite albums. I remember singing it from beginning to end on the ski bus multiple times, okay? But maybe it's TLC, and they're telling you not to chase waterfalls. And if you know me in person, you know that rapping that part of waterfalls is like one of my favorite things to do. But what if it's Salt and Peppa being explicit and just owning it, or Missy Elliott showing up in an inflatable jumpsuit and absolutely no apology, completely reinventing what a female rapper could look, sound, and be. She was producing her own records. She was writing for other people. She was doing things in hip hop that men with twice the industry access couldn't touch. Maybe it's Tori Amos. Maybe you were in your bedroom at 16 with headphones on, and Crucify or Silent all these years was doing something to you that you didn't have the words for yet, because she was writing about things that weren't supposed to be in songs. Survivorship, shame, the specific, exhausting weight of being a woman who people kept underestimating. She made a piano sound like a weapon, and a wound, all at the same time. Or maybe it was garbage. Shirley Manson, with that red hair and that voice that sounded like she'd already seen through everything and found it both being boring and gorgeous. Or Meredith Brooks, or Tracy Bonham, or Fiona Apple, who was 20 years old when she released Tidal and gave an acceptance speech at the VMAs that the music industry has been trying to forget ever since. Or maybe it was Hilary Duff or Ashley Simpson. And yes, I am including them because what happened to those two women tells you everything about how this industry works. Ashley Simpson had a wardrobe malfunction moment on SNL that became a national punchline, and the press ate her alive for years. Hilary Duff was dismissed as disposable teen pop while she was making music that an entire generation of girls was growing up on. And here's the thing about all of them. Tori and Missy and Alanis and Shirley and TLC and Salt and Peppa and the Hillarys and the Ashleys, they were everywhere. They were the soundtrack. They were the language a lot of us used to understand who we were and who we were allowed to be because of these women. And then the industry moved on, like it always does. And a lot of these women got left behind in a way that their male counterparts simply didn't. And I want to talk about why, and what's finally changing, and what still isn't. So let's be honest about what happened. Here's the thing. I need you to sit with this for a second. Bitch by Meredith Brooks peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. Number 2. It was there for 4 weeks. It was nominated for Best Female Rock Vocal Performance and Best Rock Song at the Grammys. The album went platinum. And then, nothing. She became a punchline, a trivia question. Oh, remember that song? Like she was some kind of happy accident that the industry had stumbled into and then politely, or really not politely, I guess, just moved past. Meanwhile, the song itself never died. Because songs that tell the truth, they don't die. People are still discovering it. It's still on playlists. It's still in cars and in driveways, making women sit still for 3 minutes thinking about everything. But the woman who wrote it, largely erased from the narrative. Now let me tell you about Tori Amos, because this one genuinely makes me emotional. When Tori released Little Earthquakes in 1992, she was doing something radical. She was writing about sexual assault. She was writing about trauma, about the interior life of women in a way that was not soft and palatable and designed for easy radio consumption. It wasn't bubblegum pop. She was sitting at a piano and being completely, brutally honest. She gave a generation of young women permission to feel the things they'd been told to keep quiet. Spin Magazine, multiple times, has run open letters calling for her Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. Multiple times. And guess what? She's still not in the Rock Hall. Now let's talk about Missy Elliott, because her story goes in a slightly different direction, but it's just as telling. Missy Elliott was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2023. She was the first female hip-hop artist ever inducted in 2023. And here's the detail that'll really get you, because it got me. She was inducted in her first year of eligibility, meaning the Rock Hall wasn't sitting there saying, oh, we've been trying to get her in for years. The moment she was eligible, she was in, which means, what were they doing before that? What was the standard? Because she didn't change. Her catalog didn't change. All 6 of her studio albums are certified platinum or higher. She was one of the most innovative producers in hip-hop history, and none of that was a secret. But she was a Black woman making hip-hop, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, for most of its history, was not built with her in mind. When Queen Latifah inducted her, she said something that stuck with me. She said, if that ain't rock and roll, I don't know what is. And the crowd fucking lost it, you guys, because that statement was about 30 years overdue. And then there's the more subtle stuff. The stuff that's harder to point at, but that all of us who were paying attention really felt. The way women in music got asked constantly about their bodies, about who they were dating, about whether their emotional songs were too much. The way Alanis Morissette was called angry as a criticism, like anger wasn't a completely valid response to the things she was writing about. The way Fiona Apple's VMA speech, where she said at 20 years old that the world was bullshit and she wasn't going to model her life after what she saw in it, got turned into a punchline instead of being recognized for the completely lucid, accurate cultural commentary that it was. The industry, it would take a hit, the money, the moment, and then it would look for the next thing. And the woman who made that hit would be left to figure out what came next on her own. Usually with a tiny fraction of the infrastructure and support that a male artist at the same level would have had. And that's not a conspiracy theory, you guys. That's just the pattern. And we watched it happen over and over and over again. And a lot of us didn't have the language for it yet. But we do now. Something has shifted. And I want to talk about what it is. Here's where I have to tell you something that genuinely makes me feel good. Things are changing. Not enough, not fast enough, and I'll get into that, but they're changing. And it's happening in a few really specific ways that I think are worth naming. First, streaming. If you grew up like me and you know the LimeWires and the Napsters and everything else, that was like the first kind of taste of streaming that we got, right? But streaming and TikTok have now rewritten the rules of what a song's shelf life is. Songs don't die anymore. They go dormant and then they come back on their own terms, introduced to people who weren't even alive when they were recorded. So look at Natalie Bedingfield's Unwritten. Like the Hills theme song came out in 2006. And it charted on the Billboard Global in Global 200, I think. The Billboard Global 200 was called. In 2024, you guys. So nearly 20 years after the release of it, it charted on the global Billboard charts. Because TikTok found it. Because a new generation of women heard it and recognized themselves in it, and they shared it. And that is what's happening with so many of these 90s artists right now. And it makes me so happy when I'm scrolling, when I do my doom scroll at night or whenever I do it. And I'm scrolling and I see whether it's like a mother and daughter or mother and son, doing the night or the challenge, like those music challenges or you raised rate type challenge, or even if it's somebody younger who I see singing Mother, Mother at the top of their lungs, it just gives me this, I just get like tingles and like excitement because I'm like, yes, like it's so freaking great. The TikTok algorithm doesn't know that the industry decided that Meredith Brooks was done. And the algorithm doesn't know that Fiona Apple was supposed to be a footnote. The listeners are finding these songs and having exactly the same reaction that I had 30 years ago because good art, good music, women with their powerful voices singing about powerful topics, that shit doesn't expire, you guys. Second, Alanis, she went back on the road. The Jagged Little Pill 25th anniversary tour, she brought out garbage with her. Shirley Manson was opening every night, and the venues were fucking packed. People were crying. And not just out of nostalgia, but out of recognition. Like, I see myself in her, right? Out of finally being in the room with thousands of other people saying, yes, this was real, this mattered, and we were fucking right about this album. And Shirley Manson, every night, was reminding those audiences of the feminist and the LGBTQ plus roots of both of those acts. Not letting the moment be just a greatest hits celebration, but making it mean something. Third, the current wave of women dominating music is doing something important, which is they are naming their influences. Chappell Roan, Doechii, Charlie XCX. These women are operating in a musical landscape where the 5 most streamed albums on Spotify in 2024 were all by women. All 5. All by women. And that doesn't come from nowhere. That is a foundation that Alanis and Missy and Tori and Garbage, that's what they built. And the young women making music right now know it. And fourth, Missy Elliott's Rock Hall induction. And I keep coming back to this because I think it was a genuine cultural moment. She closed the ceremony. She descended from a fucking spaceship in a sequin tracksuit. She did a medley that made everyone in that building understand exactly why she belongs in any Hall of Fame ever invented. And the fact that fucking Queen Latifah, UNITY, Queen Latifah, was the one to induct her. 2 women who built careers on their own terms in an industry that kept trying to define those terms for them, that meant something. These women are reclaiming the narrative. And we are finally listening. The other thing that's happening, and this piece is the one that I really truly find the most interesting, is that women in their 30s and 40s and 50s are the ones driving a lot of this reprisal. We grew up on this music, right? We grew up singing it. We grew up maybe not even understanding the lyrics, but knowing all of them. And we're now old enough to have the platform, the audience, the language, and honestly, the anger to say, we were fucking right about these women. We knew. And the fact that the industry didn't protect them the way it should have is something we're honestly going to keep talking about until it becomes part of the permanent record. That's us. That's this show. That's what we're doing right now. In Midlife and beyond, we are speaking up. And we're saying, hey, shit didn't go right before, but let's fix it. Let's give these women the flowers that they deserve. And honestly, I'm not going to put a bow on this because we still have a long way to go. And I promise you I wasn't going to wrap this up too neatly, so let's be real for a minute. Tori Amos is still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I just had to say that again. One of the most influential singer-songwriters of the last 30 years. A woman who changed the conversation about women, about the topics and what women were allowed to say in songs. She's still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Still not. Not even... Anyway. Women in music are still getting asked in interviews about their bodies and their relationships at a rate that male artists simply are not. Look at just the past, few weeks. Meghan Trainor, she lost weight. People, and unfortunately, a lot of the people that are putting her down are women. People say, oh, you lost weight, or you didn't have your baby the real way, so you're not a real woman. And then, they just dig at you. And the questions when they get interviewed isn't about the songs that they write. It's about the look that they have, or, oh my gosh, is she getting divorced because she canceled her tour? It's pathetic, honestly. Go look at an interview with a female artist from any era and count how many questions are about music versus their personal life. And then go and look at a comparable male artist and see how their interview goes. I'll wait. Actually, I won't, because you can go Google them right now and it's clear as day. Men don't get asked about who they're dating or what they're wearing or their bodies. That one-hit wonder label, and that's something I think about a lot in the context of the Meredith Brooks conversation. It gets applied to women at a completely disproportionate rate. When a male artist has one massive hit and the follow-up doesn't chart as high, we say, oh, he's having a transitional period. When a woman does the same thing, she's a one-hit wonder. The narrative is different. The grace is different. And radio airplay for women, it still lags. And honestly, this has been documented and reported on for years, and it keeps being a problem. Country radio is particular. It's particularly the one where you look at and go, it's egregious. There have been actual industry conversations about whether two women can even be played back to back without fatiguing the listeners. I fucking can't. I cannot. I genuinely cannot. Fatiguing the listeners? Ugh, they don't want to get me on the mic back to back, right? Well, first off, I can't sing, but I'll talk about how bullshit that is. And I mean, look at the Lilith Fair. If you haven't watched the Lilith Fair documentary, please go do that, because that also sheds light on this subject in general. How the people that were putting on the concerts, or the promoters and all, it'll never work. An all-female music festival, nobody will ever go to it. Honestly, that's what they said. So go check that one out though too. But something else that I think about, and this is the one that maybe hits the closest to home for a lot of us listening, is the industry remembered the song. It remembered the song. It took decades, though, fucking decades, to remember the woman. The art got to be immortal. The artist got to be inconvenient. And that is what's changing. Slowly, with pressure, because of women like you listening to shows like this, refusing to let the narrative get rewritten. Progress is real, and there's more work to do. I refuse to choose between those two things. Two things can be true at once. So here's what I want you to do this week. I'm coming back to my morning in the car. The 3 minutes, engine off, bitch on the radio. What I was feeling in that moment wasn't just nostalgia. It was gratitude. Because those women, Meredith and Tori and Alanis and Tracy and Missy and Shirley and Robin and TLC and Salt and Peppa and Hillary and Ashley and all of them, gave me something I didn't know that I needed until I had it. They gave me the language to be complicated, to be angry and tender in the same breath, to take up space in a room that wasn't designed for me and do it without shrinking. To say, I am a bitch, I am a lover, I am a child, I'm a mother, and not just pick one. That is not a small thing. That is fucking everything. So here's what I want you to do this week. Go back to one of these women. Not just the hit, the deep cut, the album track, the B-side, the interview from 1997 where you can see exactly how the press treated her and completely feel vindicated in your current frustration. And then I want you to ask yourself, who are the women in music right now that we might be doing this to? Who is the Meredith Brooks of 2025? Who is the artist we're consuming and not protecting? That's the question we're sitting with. Come find me on Instagram or TikTok at @TheJenWeinstein and tell me who you went back to this week. Who deserves more flowers that they've gotten? I want to know, because I want to celebrate them. I want to feature them in my Women Who Rock Wednesdays. But I also want to get this conversation going. And if you're a subscriber to the Backstage Pass newsletter, look for this week's edition, because we're going to go a little bit deeper on this one. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to a show that refuses to let these women be footnotes. Go blast your songs. Talk to your daughters and your nieces and your friends' daughters and anyone who will listen about them, because they deserve to be celebrated. Until then, crank up the radio on your nostalgia playlist. Sing about being a bitch and a lover and a child and a mother and a sinner and a saint. Sing about it all. And next week, we'll talk about something else I'm pissed off. But pissed off about, I guess. I should probably finish my sentences. Maybe that's what we talk about. Brain fog and see how I just stop sentences right in the middle because I don't remember what I'm saying next. It's for a different one. But I'll tell you what, I can still remember the lyrics to every 90s song that I had blasted on the radio or on a cassette tape. Still remember all those lyrics. But anyway. Okay. Thanks so much for being here. If this episode hit with you, send it to somebody who loves music and loves nostalgia and the 90s and 2000s and women in music, because get them going on the conversation too. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, like, all the things. I'll see you next week, because this is the Midlife Edit, and we're going to make it a damn good chapter. You've been listening to the Midlife Edit. If something in this episode stayed with you, I hope you sit with it, not rush past it, because this season is about listening to yourself and to what's quietly asking for more. If you want to stay connected between episodes, you can join the Backstage Pass. That's where I share behind-the-scenes notes, playlists, and things that don't always make it onto the podcast. You'll find the link in the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, it would mean so much if you'd subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's the easiest way to support the show and help more women find it. So until next time, turn the volume up, and let's make it a damn good chapter.